It is often said that humans are the only creatures that can experience grief. But there are stories like today's that show us that this statement is far from reality, because animals also feel pain for the loss of their loved ones, as well as being able to relate to different species and create bonds of friendship between them. Our story is set in London, England. It is about the life of a little 2-month-old cat who recently lost his mother and siblings in tragic circumstances. Fortunately, he was able to survive at the cost of being completely abandoned near some buildings. For several days, this poor kitten was eating what little he could find. Many people saw him, but no one wanted to adopt him. The little guy had found shelter in an alley near a dumpster, which he tried several times to reach into to get some food, but his size did not allow it. The kitten was very close to death when a crow appeared in front of him. Now, clearly the kitten was frightened, as he thought that this other animal could attack him, but nothing could be further from the truth. The raven, seeing this frightened and starving kitten, left, only to return with some insects in his mouth to offer them to the kitten. Perhaps it was not the most adequate diet for a cat, but there have been cases in which cats eat insects out of hunger, and this was one of them. The little cat knew from that moment on that he could trust this peculiar species. For his part, the raven guided him to a small watering hole where they could both quench their thirst. For several days, the raven took care of the feline, almost as if he had adopted it. He was in charge of bringing him food and making sure nothing bad happened to him. Ariana Stefan is a 50-year-old woman who happened to be shopping for Christmas that day and passed by the alley where the kitten was. Although his appearance was dirty and emaciated, at least he had managed to stay alive. The woman was immediately moved by this poor cat and decided to take him home with her. Ariana lived alone in her house and had never been a cat-loving woman, but there was something about this feline that caught her attention. Perhaps his completely black fur or his big eyes. There was something about him that made the woman decide to adopt him. What this woman did not know is that she was not only adopting a cat that day, but also his best friend and practically his father, a raven. A few days after the woman took the little guy home, she discovered something rather strange. The backyard of this woman's house was a fairly large place, full of grass. She kept it well maintained. In the mornings, she liked to take the cat, now nicknamed Tom, out into the yard to breathe the fresh air and get some sun while she did her chores. The cat showed quite a bit of intelligence. In a few days, he'd become accustomed to his new owner, and every morning he would go out into the yard until noon, when it was time for lunch. That Sunday morning, Ariana was taking care of some work business inside the house, but she wanted to look out the window to watch Tom playing in the yard. When the woman looked out to see the cat, she discovered that he was not alone. Next to him was a large black raven. The woman panicked. She thought the raven would hurt her little kitty. But when she took a closer look, she could see that the two were just playing as if they already knew each other. And indeed, that was the same raven that helped Tom when he was orphaned on the streets. Somehow, he had found him, or maybe never stopped watching him. Most likely, the day Ariana took Tom, the raven followed them to the house to make sure his best friend was in good condition. Now, at first, the woman tried to scare it away and bring the cat home, and it worked. But only that day, because the next day, the big bird was visiting Tom again in the morning. Ariana even forbade Tom to go out in the yard so as not to attract the raven anymore, as this woman had a strong prejudice against this bird. But her efforts proved insufficient, as the raven and the cat met at the window to continue playing. In fact, even this black bird kept bringing insects to Tom, which he gladly accepted despite all the good food Ariana gave him at home. He kept eating insects, which was quite unusual for a cat. Eventually, Ariana gave up and stopped trying to forbid these two from meeting, as they always found a way to get together on a daily basis. She kept wondering how it was possible for these two very different species to have developed such a strong friendship. But she didn't know what they meant to each other and what this raven had done for Tom when no one else would help him. After a couple of years, Ariana got used to the raven's presence and had even grown quite fond of him. She even built him a little place for him to perch his talons and a place with bird food and water. Now, although the raven did not stay in the house, he never missed a day to visit his best friend Tom, now a full-grown cat, treat him with great respect, and continue playing with him. After 5 years of happy coexistence between these 3 very different species, something rather unfortunate happened. Tom had fallen ill. Ariana couldn't stop crying for her cat. She took him to as many veterinarians as she could, but none of them could alleviate his condition. The cat could no longer leave the house and had little energy to get up. His days were numbered. But during all that time, the raven did not leave his side. With his beak, he tried to comfort his best friend. Even Ariana could swore that at some point the bird came to embrace the cat with his wings. Tom finally lost the fight against his illness and passed away. Ariana was inconsolable, and the raven would not stop cawing, expressing the strong pain he felt for the loss of his friend. Ariana buried Tom in the backyard of her house, the most beautiful place she could find next to some flowers, and even placed a tombstone where she could forever remember the most intelligent and noble cat she had ever met. And thanks to him, she could discover that ravens are not those wild and unintelligent animals that everyone else thinks. They are birds full of immense wisdom and a big heart. In fact, legend has it that the first animal to leave Noah's Ark after the flood was the raven. And it did so through a window so small that a human head could not fit through it in order to explore and find out if the land was already near the waters. Currently, even with his best friend deceased, there is not a day in which the bird does not visit his grave to remember the one with whom he formed such a strong bond for so long. Ariana, on the other hand, continues to cherish this big black bird and keeps leaving him food in a container. The following story shows us how grateful crows can be. It's about Gabby, a 4-year-old girl who, thanks to a mistake, discovered how noble these big black birds can be. This happened one afternoon when the little girl was getting out of her mother's car and inadvertently dropped a piece of chicken in the street. Thanks to the little slip, a crow seized the opportunity for a free meal and took the piece of food. That marked the beginning of a special friendship between the little girl and the birds. What started thanks to a small oversight continued through the years until today. Gabby and her brother began to feed some of these crows on their way to school, which soon became a gang waiting for the little girl's generosity. It was through these encounters that a give-and-take relationship was formulated on both sides. Each time the little girl left them food, the crows left behind some present for her. These little treasures are mainly buttons, pieces of toys, scraps of metal, and even a heart-shaped pearl. That may not seem like much, but the gifts the girl received are her most valuable collection. "They're showing me how much they love me," Gabby tells the BBC. She carefully stores each of the special objects. She is firmly convinced that the collection of paperclips, nuts, and all sorts of the other shiny things the crows leave behind are their way of thanking her. Today, Gabby and her mom regularly leave food for her new companions in the belief that the animals credit her for the favor by bringing her little goodies. That was today's video of the day. And now it's your turn to answer these questions. Do you like the bond created between Tom and the raven? Did you know that this species of bird could be so intelligent and grateful? And do you know of any similar stories involving these birds? Leave your opinion in the comments. You can also leave us your like to let us know that you're liking our content and that we can continue making more videos of this type. See you next time.